Jake, I am so excited for this episode. Tell the listeners why Dad is so excited.
Ever since you started, you've always wanted to interview Bryan Buckley, the greatest comedy commercial director of all time.
Jake, I've said if we got Bryan Buckley, like for a while it was Joe Pitka, but if we got Bryan Buckley, I would stop doing the podcast. There'd be nothing else to learn. Should we end it with this episode or should we keep going?
We gotta keep going to give the people what they want.
It's time for Respect the Process, a short chat about commercial filmmaking. Here's your host, director Jordan Brady.
Oh, Helen, this is a big one, a doozy, a good get in the podcast game. Well, if you have a micro nano niche podcast about commercial filmmaking, you know everything about Bryan Buckley. King of the Super Bowl. I think he's done 70 and counting Super Bowl spots. He's gotten the DGA Directors Award, Titanium Lions. I bet he has a whole closet full of lions and Cleos. And he was Director of the Decade, voted by Ad Age. And so many influential campaigns and such great comedy. A lot of celebrities in his work. We talk about that in that relationship. You know, it's weird, Helen. I've worked with your Billy Bobs, your Charlize's, your pro athletes, your Peyton Mannings. It doesn't faze me. I mean, I'm in awe of their talent, sure, but I don't fanboy out. In recent history with the podcast, it was definitely Greg Hahn of Mischief. I kind of went overboard, and I think I did a little bit with Bryan Buckley. How did it happen? That's a great question, Helen. My lovely wife, Jeanette Godoy, a talented filmmaker in her own right, we went to support the Stay in L.A. movement, trying to get some production back to L.A. Now, it's mostly crew, it's mostly TV and movie people, and I'm thinking, who's going to represent the commercial directors, or commercials in general? And there he pops up on the stage with his golden locks under his baseball cap. It's Bryan Buckley, and he says, with such humility and grace, hey, everybody, I'm the commercial guy. And he makes a plea of how commercials can help bring business to LA, and he had great ideas, and we covered that a little bit on the show here. And I just thought it was so nice. So I kind of, didn't bum rush him, but I was clearly the stalker guy waiting for a conversation break for me to swoop in and ask him. Followed up with his team of handlers who couldn't have been nicer over at Hungry Man, and this is the result of that. I am interviewing him from a janky hotel in the Redwoods of California. That was such a great trip, but that's for another time. Speaking of magical places, Helen, it's almost June, and we've only got 8 spots left for the Filmmaker Retreat in Joshua Tree. It's going to bring you clarity and vision, personal growth. You're going to have a sense of community because there's 15 filmmakers. Well, 17 if you count myself and my lovely wife. And you get the one-on-one mentorship because you and I are going to do an onboarding call. I'm going to load you up with free online courses. And the one thing that Mr. Buckley says is, when you have a voice, when you have a point of view, and this is aligned with everything that we talk about on the program and at Commercial Directing Film School, when you have a point of view, people trust you and they hire you for your point of view. And the more trust you are afforded, the better the spot's going to turn out, and good work begets good work. I asked him about on his website at Hungry Man, why Bryan had, they're classic spots, but they're older spots. Like some of them are 15 years old. And he said, if it's funny, it's funny. If it's good, it's good. And he's proud of it. And it shows his distinct voice as a director. By no way is Bryan Buckley endorsing the Filmmaker Retreat in Joshua Tree by being on this program. I am manipulating that in the intro. Okay. Yes, there will be free Magic Mind at the retreat because you want that calm energy. You want to get in that flow state like your pal Jordan. You want to stay sharp. It's got the ashwagandha ceremonial grade matcha, Helen. I don't even know what makes regular matcha different from ceremonial grade matcha, but I love it. And if you use the code Brady20, well, by golly, you're going to save some money. and they're a big supporter of the show. And by no way is Bryan Buckley supporting my endorsement of Magic Mind. I'm sure if he tried it, he would like it, but this is just part of the intro. Okay, let's get to the show. There's nothing else that I want to tell you other than enjoy, and we are going to continue with the podcast.
How are you?
Bryan, I am super-de-duper. I am in the California Redwoods.
Oh, nice.
With my daughter went on a road trip with me as I was leaving for Seattle for a gig, and I said the day before, why don't you go with me? And to my surprise, she said yes.
How old is she?
24.
That's amazing.
And then my son flew up and DP'd the spot with me. He flew home, of course. And I say this because you have how many kids?
Well, I'm about to have 5.
Mazel tov.
Yeah.
5 kids. I had 4 and I'm done. For the listener, I made a snipping effect with my fingers. You came to the hashtag StayInLA.org rally.
Mm-hmm.
And you got on stage, and there were hardly any commercial people. There were crew that we work with in commercials, but you got up and said, I'm the commercial guy. And then you said, I want to go home and put my kids to bed. And I admired you as the king of the Super Bowl, top of the rock with commercials, your company I followed since 1999, I think. But there you were as a dad saying, I want to go home to my kids. So thank you for saying that and showing up for the townspeople. But tell me about that.
Well, I mean, first, what are you doing now? You're away, I mean, on a road trip with your daughter, right? So you get down and you're working with your son, right? So that's incredible.
I'm living the dream. The dream. But I want to go home and I want to see the Key Grip's daughter, have him put her in bed at night too.
Right. But the problem with Key Grip is he can't work right now, right? So, right. And it's a complex problem to some degrees, right? And not complex on the other side. That's sort of the frustrating part of it. Like, I think for us, like, just in an overview of my situation, it's like I grew up or started shooting out of New York. Hungry Man came out of New York. My whole concept was family. Started in New York, started a production company in New York, cast New York, make it New York. And we did for a while. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, if you really want to grow this business to another level, LA was floundering at that point. And if you want to get into more entertainment stuff, long format stuff, it's really uphill battle out of New York. So like, okay, so I'll go out to LA and get more involved with the LA operation. But it was interesting because the root of it was New York. Get out here and all of a sudden, whatever, 15 years later, you're sort of the same situation all over again. Now it's not LA, it's somewhere else, right? Like, and here I am starting a new family in essence, in terms of young ones. And I'm like, oh, here we go again, second, phase 2. And it's really difficult, for LA right now. So I think for me, I can control my destiny to a degree at this point in my career. Right. And then when I was younger, I didn't control my destiny. Like, you were just like, a job comes in, you go, dude, you got to find a way, you're doing calls when you're not going to do the job, like just to meet people, et cetera. And, how is that going to turn it now? Sort of, you're more selective and everything's a little, obviously strategy is different. So you can control your destiny to a degree. So here we are, the crossroads again, and now like kind of coming back is interesting. I've been working like tons in the UK, and I'm ultimately probably going to be up over there, living there in the not too far future, because I'm working on a musical that's going to take me there. But the
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have to get there, but yeah, it all seems to be heading in the right direction.
Was musical on the bucket list?
No. It just was one of these things where, I sort of like, you see something like, oh, this is interesting,
Yeah.
and so many things. Again, at this point in my career, I kind of look at things, whether it's a film or, whatever those things might be. It's like, oh, how do we create stuff that's interesting and gets people talking? And, like it feels good for you as an artist, right? And, it's interesting because commercials continually deliver that, right? And something will come at you and go, okay, what's it going to be? To me, like it could be a range of stuff. Like Trump has been very inspired, and that's a whole nother thing. But like that's something that could keep me full-time job. Just Trump, just
Sure.
right.
He's wearing a MAGA hat for the listeners.
Yeah, of course, of course. I love Trump. That's what I'm saying. He reaches out. We have calls, at least once a week right now.
He's got the red phone under the cake thing.
We're talking the Fed stuff right now, and I'm trying to get him off the edge, just so all the listeners know, but I don't know. I think he might make the move. But
doing the good work.
Yeah.
Well, I have the questions. I do have questions, depending upon how much time you have, about how you choose what job to do. And I definitely want to talk about passion projects. But as far as staying in LA, like, will you take the family to the UK?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay. So let's just talk about that getting home at night, right? So here's your issue, like getting home at night to see that kid, right? Super important, and soon to be 2 kids. My other kids are actually here and in New York, and and some older than your kids, but similar situation at this point.
Mine are 29 and 31.
Yeah, mine range from 35 to 29 and 30. So
Why?
Your first graph, and then this new one is she's 3, and then the one on the way. So I've got a.
Your youthful looks betray you.
Thanks. I got no, but well, listen, the kids keep you in this situation. This world right now, I couldn't think of anything better. And it's different. You'll have different perspectives. And anyway, getting home to my kid is super important, and waking up with my kid is super important. Like those are the 2 things.
Yeah.
So I'll take her, and my family flies in London. We're shooting in London. I'm there. They come for a month. They can do that now. She's not in school. She's still young. And that works out. But ultimately, one of the things that attracts me about the musical and being involved in that will be that I'll be living near there and commuting every day, and she'll be able to come in. And I mean, that seems amazing, but with our business right now, like it's just everything's a struggle in terms of, I don't care whether you're coming in the beginning or in my point of the career, it's like, and you're in the middle of it yourself, these clients that are coming in, I get their problem. They can't afford to shoot, and the union stuff and everything, so they're coming in with all sorts of stuff, and it's, what are they supposed to do? Like, and we're not making it easier, and it's not like when you say, well, it's going to be a better quality, it's like that doesn't really, when you're talking about, getting fired or laid off, you're going to draw that line. Quality doesn't matter. Is it good enough? Is it good enough to get by? And those, the first time I started experiencing that was maybe 8 years ago, or someone's like, no, we just need 3 takes. Like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's good enough. I'm like, and this is a big brand. Like, I'm like, what?
Right.
You didn't hire me to do good enough. We don't have it yet. And they're like,
good enough sucks was the quote in the Bogusky days, right?
Right, exactly. Like, where did this happen? And you started seeing like it's sort of this thing that's actually permeated the business in a big, big, big way at this point. And good enough, and everyone's sitting there and worry about good enough. Well, good enough now has hurt us in LA, because it's like, well, there's quality that the crews and everything else are so much, significantly better. And everything is in the acting. Obviously, you can bring people in from New York. It used to be like a cast New York and fly people in from New York or Chicago, where the hell it is. Now they're like, it's good enough, just LA, right? And we won't pay for anybody to come. We don't even want to look at that. We don't want to think about that. And you're like, oh, guys, but this is a huge spot. It's like the difference of the quality of the talent is, so that has really been, an ongoing challenge that's just but the state itself, when you look at these tax breaks, in which, getting back to that problem, which is the commercial business has seen zero refund, like zero. It's crazy. They're talking about this $750 million thing, and there's like no money that will realistically at this point, even the 750, that we will see whatsoever in a business. So when you have a producer calling up that producer on the other side who's part of a holding group at Omnicom now because
the agency producer that's
right, who is now being on
to get it
loan out. Right, the agency producer who's on loan out, who's now no longer working for an agency, but rather for a holding group. Because that's what, let's say, for instance, Omnicom's doing. They're just worried about one thing: money. Like, that's it. And their clients call them, go, I just got to get a deal done. You know, like, what's the deal? And if you can't offer anything back on this side that's going to help them out, even the notion of it, that, hey, look, we can get this, then they're going to go, well, why are we going there? Like, that doesn't make sense on any level. I can't go back to my, boss and the board and say, yeah, we just paid full fare. They're going to want a discount of some sort. And just like, look at the LA fires. Well, the LA fires, as horrible as they were, provided an opportunity, which I saw as like compassion for LA. Just a nanosecond of compassion. Like, oh my God, they just went
nationally.
Right.
Yeah.
So you could actually have a client, which we had clients go, hey, we feel bad for LA. We'll bring the business there. Right. So, okay. But that's only
because of the fires 3 months ago, not what's happened the last 3 to 5 years.
No, that's immaterial. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's completely immaterial. But because there was compassion, so there is compassion there. But if you don't, and by the way, these clients do want to shoot here, like, they don't want to, they're the same thing. They want to get home to their kids. They don't really want to go down to Mexico and have to deal with whatever is going on or getting in and out of the country. Like, not really. Maybe do it once and you go, I get it, but I'd rather do LA. It's just easier for their business. And
I would argue that a lot of agency creatives like to come to LA, go to the fancy pants steakhouse, stay at the hotel, and it's a break for them. And then we fly them home Friday to be with their kids on the weekend.
Exactly. That's a trickier deal, whether you're in Vancouver, because you're dealing with immigration and all stuff, just slow stuff down, right? So always know, like, those few minutes that you have to get off that red eye, to go home, to see your family, and then get back again. You have it down to a second. I used to go to track meets in New York, like literally get on the thing, go watch my kids run cross country, a race in New York, then get back on the plane and fly back here. And that's, what you would do, right? You would do that.
I flew from Miami Friday on the red eye, saw the soccer game, took the last flight back Saturday night, was there Miami Sunday, because the kids were little. Now I'm basically an empty nester. I'm begging them to come with me or do whatever.
But you still want that time. Yeah. You're still doing that time. And I look at that time as like, look, at the end of the day, it's classic. I'm going to London now to this job, and like, my wife's doing the 21st. We timed out the last baby. She had 10 days early. I go, well, 9th. Okay, so I think she can hold off to the 9th. I get back on the 9th. So baby, you gotta hold it till the 9th.
Gotta hold it tight.
But you gotta do this gig, the ongoing gig. We're gonna make this work. And this is the life we live, right? I mean, you understand that, like, when you have especially when you have the right partner and the kids, and everyone understands this is sort of what we're dealing with, right? So I think everything is geared towards that. That how do you create your kid, kids, and your wife too, is like, how do you make that as good as it can be? But it's really time. Everything is like, we do 30-second spots, and now 90-second spots, or now they're 4-minute spots. But we live by time. And like, are you so efficient? Well, going out of the country doesn't really plug in. UK is a little bit different in this case with this job I'm on now, because that's a UK-based client. I have it up in the UK, and we do UK work. It's different. You're not taking it out of the country. It's celebrity-based stuff. But anyway, so I think I look at it like, how do we do that? How do we look back on life and go, wow, like, okay, I did some stuff right, I did some stuff wrong, but at least I did everything I could to be. You did those things to see the track. Like, I always look at my friends, like the friends that were like, hey, yeah, I'm at the soccer match every day, they mostly live in the suburbs. Unfortunately, for them, work's really hard. You hit 50 and that's just a reality. Like, you sacrificed something for that, right? Like, and I don't know anyone that it worked out, like, career-wise, person who got home every day at 5 o'clock. They're in their 50s. It's been rough, unless they really embezzled or something, they had a side business going on. Like,
it's an option.
It's an option.
Especially for you with all your work with celebrities, LA will become, that'll be our niche. That there's enough celebrity star power specifically even with commercials, that they're going, no, I don't want to go abroad. I don't want to go to Uruguay.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yes, absolutely. What you're saying is absolutely true. Like, so our business, Hungry Man's business, primarily at this point on the bigger stuff, it's all celebrity, right? But the stuff I'm talking about is like non-celebrity stuff. That stuff's moving away, right? But that's the stuff that the more actors work in, say like the volume stuff versus the big, monster spot that you're shooting with X name the celebrity.
Right.
But, and yes, then what's driving those issues are cost, right? Most celebrities like, oh my God, I go to Mexico. Like, we did a couple of years ago, I did a spot and like the celebrities just wouldn't go to Mexico. They all thought they were going to get kidnapped, right? And then the Canadian ones, a lot of like, they're just not going to go up there. It costs too much for the client, right? So they're stuck here in these tiny windows. And the celebrities drive that. For now, they're driving it here. I think, and then sometimes you're going to Atlanta or even into Europe if they're shooting a movie and you're just shooting something there with them. But and also that's the last space I think in our business. That's not like when you're looking when a client's breaking down what they're doing, the celebrities, of course, are all running into the commercial business now because of, the loss of revenue from, movies and whatever. The streaming services have completely cut them down. So here, commercials are their big payday and they all get their money there. And it's a great marriage because it works, for them in the business, the ad business, that they're no longer, there's a stink attached to really commercials being involved in commercials.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's a viable business for now. And, the AI, huge vultures that are sitting on every phone line at this point that we hear about, they're going to be held back for a little bit on the celebrities, right? But but that is viable and that works. But I'm looking more like this, the normal good old fashioned commercial. We were talking about it, in our company the other day. It's like the good old fashioned commercial that shoots in LA, is non-celebrity. I did just do one, but it's a real, like, it doesn't happen very often anymore. They're trying to take it out of the here.
Right. A minimum day for the listener who's not in LA. Let's say a union day minimum. And Hungry Man, I bet your price is higher, but I would say $300,000 to $350,000 for a shoot day of a simple, let's say, comedy spot.
Right. Simple spot. Right. Not non-celebrity. Right. One of the things, it's the two Hungry Man's horn, or one of the things we did off of that was that if something goes, we did everything LA, at least one job. We did that thing called LA Film Recovery right after the fires. We launched this.
You have a slush fund.
Yeah, it's 3% of that money goes back to, if we leave here and go out of the country, then we'll put 3% back into whether, and we sort of earmarking different, unions or even like, food trucks, what have you, different places.
Right, charities
to give money.
That's very noble. Thank you for doing that. I saw that a few months ago.
We try to get it going beyond. I went around and reached out to, different production companies. Like, yeah, that's great. It's noble. It's great. Anyway, so did you see the game the other day? Like no one's like really dying to go give it that 3% back. And I get it. Like, look, you don't know. Like, is that going to come back? Like, where do I get? Like, is that just it? The word noble. To me, I would say it's not noble. It's actually because I really want to get back to put my kid down.
It's selfish.
It's selfish. It's
Yeah.
completely selfish. And it's a tax that you're imposing upon yourself and the company. It's a tax that in the end, I see it as a benefit, right? So definitely hoping I'm not giving the money away, but the fact that we weren't able to get other companies kind of jumping in with us makes me feel like it's more noble because without that, like, it didn't really work, but we're sticking to it. No one in my company's come back. Hey, Brian, by the way, you had said other people are going to jump in. I go, yeah.
I don't think nobility and selfishness are mutually exclusive. Let me ask you, is this then, there's people listening that are in Kansas City or Orlando or who knows, Cleveland, and they're doing productions and they say, Jordan, we've loved the show. Wow, what a great get. Bryan Buckley, you're talking $300,000 for a simple thing. We're doing a $75,000 commercial for a carpet company here in Cleveland. It looks great now. Is this all good news for them? LA's demise?
Yeah, I mean, look, LA demise brings another market, right? Another way. I mean, what's interesting because New York really fell apart, right? You go, I don't know if you've shot in New York recently, but the crews, everything is just, it was gutted, right? So,
I don't like shooting there because if you ask for something, they go, that wasn't on the order.
Right.
And then somebody has to run across town to get like a small vase, from the arts bar. Or if I tried to set up a tent in the rain, somebody just looked at me crazy and I was just trying to help. So I have a different prejudice than you. You seem to love it. And
No. I'm saying it's gone to hell. Like it's not.
Oh, gotcha.
Right. So that was, I'm not going to say it went to hell with what happens. The TV business went in there. They basically cleaned out all the crews, and the crews are now like not what they were, right? So it comes down to your crew, right? At the end of the day, the guy who gets the vase, okay, union stuff, whatever. But there's those, there are guys that are just insanely good at what they do. He's like, hey, okay, I got to go across town to get a vase. And they're like, no, actually, I can hand make one right now.
I have a potter's wheel in the back.
What? Right.
And when we say guy, we mean woman, we mean they. We mean you and I are so open and we support diversity. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, of course. But, but the guy who does the vase it's a guy. I'm sorry. That's how I
Yeah, no, I know.
But it's
I'm fun.
But it's true. It's like those people that, I don't care, whatever serve those crew people, from the grips to your, costume, etc., talent level, unbelievable. LA, it's still there. The big fear is that it's going to start breaking down, and they're going to move to those markets that they can work in that are cheaper. They're going to leave, and you're not getting them back. So unless they can figure it out in the near future, like how to sustain a film business, right? Then LA is going to suffer the same fate as it did in New York for commercials, and ultimately it's going to permeate everywhere.
Last week, shooting here in Seattle. I'm somewhere in small town California right now in a hotel as I talk to you. In Seattle, it was a Seattle company. Like we had to shoot in Seattle. It wasn't runaway production. But I overheard at craft service eating some healthy snacks. 3 people, a sound person, a grip, and an electrician all moved back within the last couple years. And one gentleman 6 weeks ago all said couldn't work in LA, wasn't enough work in LA. And they don't just do commercials. If you're on the crew, you're doing a documentary, you're doing hopefully a Netflix show that didn't leave town, but it all dried up.
Yeah, it did. I mean, and those people are doing the commercial work. It's interesting you raise that point, because I did an independent film in New York a few years back, like 2017. Now, there's more than a few years. And the crews were amazing on the independent film, right? Because there are certain people who do independent film in New York that they don't care if they make any money. Their lifestyle, they don't play that game. They're all about the passion, like that.
Filmmakers.
Yeah, true filmmakers, right? Commercial people come in, there's a payday, right? So that crew is a different crew. In these smaller markets, they're doing multiple different, things, across all platforms, but the cost of living there is just much cheaper. We all watched like Atlanta explode over the years, get much better, but it was still thin on, if you didn't get top tier, then you're sort of in trouble, right?
There was no bench.
Yeah, none. And Vancouver's, the same thing, especially in town, like acting talent, like you get past 2 or 3 people and it's like you're done. LA,
I watched the explosion of Vancouver and even Toronto, which was a little more solid. But I remember, like, as Vancouver came into its own in the early 2000s, if you went back 3 weeks later, the PA was now the gaffer.
Right.
Like there was so much work. They go, Timmy, grab a light.
Right.
You're up.
It was insane. Yeah, I mean, the explosion there, Toronto, yeah, I guess, it was around longer, but I just felt like Toronto was like a business. I liked shooting in Vancouver more, so it just felt like it was more a creative place. I don't know. Vancouver felt like
West Coast.
Yeah, I just like it, but not the weather, but the crews and stuff.
Can I ask you a new question?
Sure.
as just a fan, and I don't want to be a sycophant, but I have questions about the work. But moreover, it seems like you have this wonderful formula of making commercials at the top level. And when I met you at that event, I said, "Top of the rock, please come on the podcast so I can end it." But it seems like
in the redwoods.
In the redwoods.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going home. I am towing a small camper, believe it or not.
Wow.
Swear to God.
Amazing.
I'm living a dream.
Yeah.
But what I love, and tell me if I'm right, is you take the winnings and the spoils from this majorly successful commercial career, and you then go and make whatever the fuck you want. Because if I look at an old Starburst commercial or Park the Car, which is one of my favorite all-time commercials, the Hyundai spot, the new Bateman Batman stuff, and then I watch the film Assad that's right behind you, or Saria, for instance, I wouldn't know that was the same filmmaker, and I mean that as a compliment. Like, you have a varied career, but it seems that you're funding Academy Award nominated shorts off of working for major brands. Is that correct? Is that a strategy, or just happened?
No, it's a strategy. It's sort of like, you got to give back. You're giving back to yourself too, or finding different voices. And,
that's our theme: nobility versus selfishness.
Yeah. Like, you just, look, you've been gifted a job, a talent, right? People around you that are really amazing. And, it's very hard for you to sit back and go, okay, I'm just going to take, right? Like, it can't. Actually, it's not possible. Like, even, it's interesting. I won't get into too much detail about it, but, politically speaking too, like, like, you're like, well, I can't shut my mouth, right? You do understand it's endangering everything that we are right now. This is some serious shit going on right now. Like, it's right. And
it's almost a call to action that you have to use your power.
You have to.
Right.
You've been gifted this. Like, you've been gifted. You've been, people are working with you. They believe in you. You can get them to do things that they wouldn't normally do, including yourself. So here you are, like, oh, do I just sit back and shut my mouth and, collect my profits, or do I risk, like having, the FBI show at my door because you're exercising your freedom of speech, not because you did anything wrong. Like, and then it's not a joke. Like, that's where we're at.
That's happening right now.
Sure. And you're like, oh, dude, is that really? You're like, yeah,
still
got to do it. Like, you're like, how far are you? Yeah, kind of have to do it. And, but I think that, but then, you do all these other films. I've just find it to be, even this, like, listen, this project I'm going, this musical, which hasn't been officially announced yet, like that, you're going to like, oh yeah, I get it. Like, it's monstrous, fucking huge, and monstrous people involved, monstrous stuff, investment involved, but I think it will pay out. And the voice that is a really important one. Like, so it's not just, it is what, like, I was thinking about, like, when we do our spots, you do a spot and you talk about diversity or these things that came up that suddenly, okay, brands started saying, okay, in DEI, a couple of years ago,
but are now threatened. Yeah. But they're being erased.
Well, I'm like, you go back in the history of my work. I always look at things like I want to infuse that into that work because why? Well, one, it makes it more interesting. It's real. Two is like the idea that, just adding that texture, adding the realness of this stuff, like not, it is not about, one thing. It's like, if you can do that, then your work is better, right? And also, by the way, we as commercial filmmakers are, every day we're pushing out propaganda. So if you do an interesting person from India that suddenly is doing something intelligent and this, that, and the other thing, and that's in work or funny or whatever, and you're breaking the cliches or the stereotypes that are, you got to sell a brand on it. That's getting run like 1,000 times. And that, in theory, is supposed to knock down the barriers or the cliches and the stuff. So that's been an ongoing thing, right? When you get into movies like, Saad or Saria, those are specific, but it's interesting. Like I had done off a side. I went off and made a movie originally called Dobka and ultimately became Pirates of Somalia, but it was all Somali and what have you. And it was such an incredible lesson in how little the world really cares about, we're witnessing it now, but Somalia, there's just no interest in the people or them being good or bad. Like they want the stereotypes. Like that's what people want. Like, and I went after this thing. And
there's no empathy for them as humans. They see them as
much more interesting, like when they're pirates, and much more interesting. Yeah. It was interesting. The last thing I wanted to do is call the movie Pirates of Somalia. I sold it to a distributor first thing. I said, this can't be called this. Oh, of course, sure. Yeah, I never call it that because I don't want to further the stereotypes of them being called pirates. Which is the whole idea of this movie is against this. Sure enough, I sell it the first day. Let's switch it to Pirates of Somalia. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, it's in the contract. We can do this. Like, what? This is not what I, and by the way, that was my own money. Like, just so you know, like,
yeah. No, I
a huge amount of my own money.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I just sold this thing. And now it's the name. And then you're like, it goes, it just got so deep where you're like, God, people just are, it's just a business. And
I heard they wanted to call it, I'm the Captain Now. I'm kidding.
Right. No, but it was, in fact, it's interesting that Barkad, who had done I'm the Captain.
Yeah, sure.
Said, I don't want to do a pirate movie. So my script came in. I'm like, he read it. He said, dude, I was like, read this thing thinking like, oh, I don't want to do, because I only get cast in Somali pirate movies. And he read it and he goes, you are saying the opposite. I said, yes, because I'm going to do this movie. So he did it. And so the irony that would be the name. And then of course it was just heartbreaking. You're like, oh, the business. Oh yeah. The business, like the business aspect of what, so shorts, you can get past business then because shorts are just, I don't throw my money away. Who gives a shit? And when you get into like features, it's like, well, Netflix is going to distribute this movie. Like Netflix distributed that movie, Pirates. And and it's like, yeah, it's business. So
were you happy with the Netflix thumbnail?
No, I don't even know which one there was a terrible thumbnail that I wasn't ever happy with Pirates of Somalia. In fact, if you see here, this is the real name of the movie here. Dobka.
He's panning his camera to show the poster. Dobka,
which means into the fire. That was the name. That's what I sold. That was the movie. That was changed to Pirates of Somalia the next day. The distributor said, I go, this is completely misleading. Like, people are going to think that this is about pirates in Somalia. The movie's not about that. Like, and so, spoiler alert, it's pro Somalia against piracy. Like it's trying to explain the whole fucking thing. And they're like, well, you know what? Our business is truck drivers. Like we do a huge amount of, this original distributor bought it here in the US. And like they pick up their DVDs still, believe it or not, they still buy DVDs. Sure. Trucks, and they go into like 7-Eleven and wherever those places along the way, and they buy them. So we make shit tons of money off that.
Flying J's,
right? So I'm like, they go, so Pirates of Somalia is a title that's going to really interest them. And then there's things blowing up, and they had done the poster, and it's like, wait, these things are blowing up. There's no shit blowing up in this thing. They go, yeah, but you're misleading them. They go, yeah, we know. But once we got their money, we got their money. They're going to find out the movie's a good movie. I go, no, they're going to watch the movie and go, fuck you, we hate you.
We're mad. You misled us. And
they go, no, they're going to blame me. And then they're going to sit there and go, this movie sucks. And then I got to read like this movie sucks from a million angry truck drivers. I said, and you know what?
Which is your crowd.
Right. I was like, wrong. Like I can make a movie that makes those guys happy. This wasn't designed to be that, right? And then, on the liberal side of things, of course, then that pisses off the liberal side because they're like, wait, Pirates of Somalia, I mean, that's terrible. We don't need to further that stereotype. I didn't want that. So then you're getting like hit from both sides of like, oh my God, I just wanted to make this movie, that was based on this true story of this kid who went over there. It was really funny. It was like a great business lesson, and it really helped crystallize in my life, like, oh, it's a business. And somehow in commercials, like we always go, well, you're going to get to that next, promised land and think, oh, it's great. And, everybody's in this business, and everything's awesome. And I had done another film, which was The Bronze, which had opened Sundance. But it wasn't my money. And it was like, it was just fun and stupid. And it wasn't like,
you were gun for hire on that?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you find that experience?
Oh, I love Melissa Winston. It was,
Yeah.
And actually an interesting step. He was great too.
Hey, I'm Chris Francis, and I'm a commercial director. And the main challenge that every new or up-and-coming commercial director faces is that you need to be a highly skilled commercial director just to get the opportunities to direct a commercial. And normally the only way to become a skilled director is having consistent opportunities to practice, along with immediate and accurate feedback. And what Jordan does through his online courses and workshop that I've taken, his coaching calls that I've done, his book that I've read, his podcast that I've binged, is that he imparts a career's worth of wisdom and experience to the up-and-coming commercial director, so that on your first or your fifth or your 10th commercial that you're directing, you're bringing Jordan's experience along with your own, and then you can add your own unique perspective to win over the clients and create great work. And he also provides honest feedback so you can accurately assess where you're at and what you need to work on to get better. And personally, I don't know of any other resource like it. And as a commercial director myself, I cannot recommend it enough.
Did you meet Thomas Middleditch on?
Yeah, Thomas on that.
Tom Middleditch
on that thing, because he said on our rap dinner, or the speech, like I did the rap, we're rapping. He said, Bryan, he came over to me and said, hey, just get me a Super Bowl spot. A lot of times I have people say that to me. Can you just get me a Super Bowl spot? I go, okay. And duly noted. I never going to.
And you did Verizon with him,
right? We never
for years, right?
Yeah, years, and we did tons of them, and it was one of these calls where I said, well, I got him right here. You said he wants to do a commercial. It's not Super Bowl, but I can text him right now as a spokesperson. They go, really? Because the thing was on the fast track. I go, yeah, I'll just reach out right now and see if you'd be open to it. Like, oh my God.
Does that happen a lot with you with Super Bowl spots that they'll say, Bryan, who do you want to use? Or like most celebrity spots that I dabble in, the celebrity's already attached.
Well,
maybe they go,
it's a little bit of both. Like, I've had different situations. I've had talent agencies say, hey, can you find work for this guy? I've had celebrities call me up and say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this if you do this, kind of thing.
Do you think the agency uses your cachet to reach to a star? We have Bryan Buckley, king of the Super Bowl. Next thing you know, The Rock is signed up.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, it's legit.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely. I think you're seeing that, I think across the board right now, it's not, again, you're watching and you're dealing with it, pollination of like, the feature guys aren't working. So now they're moving into the commercial space, specifically the Super Bowl space, right? That's like really competitive now. Like I'll come in and I'll shoot, whatever, but Ben Affleck shooting spots, right? It's like they're coming into that space because it's very lucrative and they have the relationships with the celebrities, right? So, so that those sometimes, you're seeing like celebrities. I mean, even like, Bateman was very vocal on who he wanted to do that spot. Like
interesting.
Yeah, like in terms of like,
you mean someone other than yourself?
We had worked before together, but he definitely had a role in that decision process. He always
bringing you in. You mean?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good. That's wonderful.
Yeah, he's wonderful. Like, because the thing is that you look at a guy like him,
who's directed. He's a pretty good director in his own right.
Unbelievable.
Ozark.
Right. Yeah. So he's not going to suffer. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, again, you're in the biz. I was like, there's a lot of bad commercial directors, a lot. Yeah. And a lot of guys who, just, you don't necessarily have to go to film school, but they came up, their ad guy comes up through the ranks, and the next thing they know, they're shooting their own spots. They don't know what the hell they're doing. And now they, moving along, you get to a celebrity, specifically a director celebrity who's been in the business since he's 6 or 7 years old. He's going to eviscerate you. Like, and why wouldn't he? He was like, why am I standing here? Like, you're not going to get the shot. Right. And I appreciate, and you've worked with these people. Like, let's say, for instance, when I worked with Pacino on Pirates, I'm going to call Pirates Dobka, just so that Dobka.
Yeah, even you calling it Pirate. We got
No. I believe me. I was going to say, the problem was I hear Pirates. I start calling it Pirates. This happened a few years ago. I'm like, oh, fuck, shut up. But I say Dobka, everyone looks like, what are you talking about? So anyway, on that film, I watched, like, Pacino makes you a better director, right? Like, like, oh my God, like he just did the blocking. Like he just figured it out. Like, where's your camera going to be, right? When you're in a commercial, these guys, a lot of times you're showing up the day of, they're showing up in the morning. They don't even know the script. They thought it was a different script. Their agents, like, they're worried about the dinner they have. You know, they got to get out by 5 o'clock. So yeah, like actually it's 5 o'clock. No, it's 4 o'clock. Actually, they got 4 o'clock because they, you're like, what? I thought it was 5. So then they're only worried about that. And now this talent rolls in. You have to be so buttoned up with these people. So if you have someone like, and this is not the case of Bateman. Like Bateman's the opposite, which is like he is detail oriented. He's writing notes and notes. You do several calls with him before you even shoot. Like he does not mess around. Like he is full on. So if
was that your first? Was that your first commercial with him? The
second
Bateman. The what?
Second. I did a 3-second segment with him on a Hyundai spot a few years ago, and we hit it off. Like, you know, he was like the button on the end of a spot.
Yeah.
So he and I got along amazingly on that 3-second button. Like we made the most of it. So I, you know, and then
I would hope so with a 3-second button, but
with Bateman, but that was it. We did a call on the button. Like we did a call on it. I'm like,
how long was the call?
Like 20 minutes. You know, and you're like, we're just talking about buttons here. It's like, yeah, you know, he's going to get on. He wants to meet you. Like, he's that guy. And then, like, you're on set with him and you're shooting him, like, you know, like a Bateman spot. Like, you know, there's one point where he's coming out of, they meet him for the first time. And Jordan's got to turn around, which was Gordon, right? Turns around to see him come. And, you know, we're doing everything. Everything is sort of like real at 2 o'clock in the morning kind of stuff, like late night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, no, it was midnight, right? And he's staying to midnight as a celebrity, which, by the way, is unfucking heard of. Like, that does not happen, right? Like, you know, we did get the call from the agent, hey, this is a night shoot? And like, it's Batman. Of course it's a night shoot. Oh, boy. He had that dinner. You're like, well, he's going to have to cancel the dinner because it is night. And you knew with Bateman, like, Bateman was going to go, fine. There are some celebrities who are like, well, you got to tent it in. Like they're like, we're not in it for that. And it might not even get to the celebrity. It just might be the agent going, I'm going to come off as a rock star, right? And figure out how to make things difficult for the production. But in case of Bateman, no, because we've already done the 47 calls. So he's like, I'm in. Anyway, he's like, all right.
And this is like a 5-day shoot, 10-day shoot. There's several
5 days. But he's on for 3. It's a 5-day shoot. He's on for 3 of those 5 when you have to figure out everything like ahead of time, like where people are, because he didn't necessarily, like, you know, SZA, you didn't work with her. You know, you had to work around certain things. But anyway, so he was walking out. He's like, okay, you know, and Gordon was supposed to be, you know, Commissioner Gordon was supposed to turn around, or Jordan supposed to turn around, like when he's coming up behind him to say Batman, you know, and I'm like, okay, we'll just cue you. We'll just cue, like, when you're coming up. So, you know, because you don't have a line then, and we'll just tell you when it's going to happen. He goes, no. He goes, Bryan, and he goes, this roof is made out of stone, like little stones. I'm going to scuffle through the stones, and that scuffle will tell him when to turn. I go, yeah, that's a good one. That beats me going, hey, turn. Because your reaction's going to be different, right? So yeah, he said, I'm just going to walk heavier for him to hear me. And he said, well, and I go, great. And you look at that as his director, you'll appreciate this. Like, you yelling, turn, first of all, if you're really concentrating, you forget. Inevitably, you're going to forget. You're like, oh, and the guy didn't turn. Like, you were supposed to yell. You were supposed to.
Or you're enthralled with the performance. So you get sucked in, you forget you're supposed to yell.
You forget. I always forget. Like, I always go like, okay, all right, I'll just cue you. And like, no one cued me. Like, oh, I forgot. I was just watching the performance. So him doing that, like, was one of those great things of, like, you could say, oh, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal because he actually is trying to make his performance and Jordan's performance better. He's an influencer, not what he does.
Had he acted before, Jordan the Stallion?
I don't think, not really. So he was kind of, I could tell, he was a little nervous, super nice guy. And, you know, and these influencers, which are now a huge part of what we do, right? And we had, you know, Kai on that one, and we had him on it, and then, you know,
SZA has acted. She was in a movie,
in a film,
Homer, that was pretty funny.
But but then, you know, she's playing Catwoman. It's like, oh my god, like the pressure, like, you know, it was a lot, and trying to, and you, by the way, like working with her, like, there's so much at play there, like, you know, there's that part, and then there's like, okay, I'm the Super Bowl halftime show, and at that point the spot's supposed to be Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right? So then, you know, it's just a lot. And I really liked, that was the interesting thing. Everybody was super nice, but you sort of like adjusting to how sophisticated, how much they've worked, like how much they understand the camera and where it's at and delivering lines and dealing with that stuff. But the influencers now are very much part of our business. Like they're such a huge part, and they're not. I thought, oh, they were gonna, a couple of people was like get tired of them. It's the opposite right now. Is wildfire. Like and I get it because these advertisers are going like, shit, like I got to get these eyeballs, and I'm not.
I can get on the party train. Get on their party train.
Right.
Let me ask you.
You were like, oh, I got this cool guy I found at, a Starbucks who's a great actor. They're like, yeah, okay, well, this guy's got 15 million followers. I'll take the shitty guy over that guy. And you're like, but this guy's funny. Yeah. So now it's your job to make that other guy funny. Or how do you work with the restrictions that you have to help them be as good as they can be, and that,
what are some tricks you use? And by tricks, I mean
by like trolling them the week before, like on their sites, like just telling them they suck or they shouldn't be actors. Like, I set up like a lot of really negative
fake accounts.
They see me, they're like, oh my God. I go, dude, I love your work, and then they go, God, these people have just been like, shitting all over me. Like it's very like, I remember Mr. Beast, we did, I worked with him on NFL Super Bowl spot.
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy. And like, he had like 10 security guys with us. And we had 20 seconds to get him. And you seen him at his show, and he was very, has no show, but he got to the camera rolls on a regular thing. It's like, no, this isn't
a little nervous.
I don't even know if it's a nerve. It's like, it disconnects. I think he's very much, he's a nerd. Like, he's like, this is what I do. Like, he's in the moment. He's not an actor. He actually is in the moment. He can't differentiate between performance out here of not being himself.
Sure.
And
some of them are good holding the phone up and talking and saying anything about their lives, but once it becomes a bit or a narrative, they can't pull it off.
They can't pull it off. But he was I was stunned. Like, I was like, we got him down. Like, I was like, okay, we're gonna have to reboot everything here because this isn't what he does. And I didn't see that coming. So sometimes you'll get into that situation, and sometimes you can be pleasantly surprised. Like Kai was I wasn't surprised. I mean, Kai's really easygoing, and he was into it. It was a big time, and in fact, in that case, like, we really did drop a truck, and there was timings and all this other stuff. So I was like, it was kind of one of these things where you're like, okay, I got a guy who isn't an actor, who's an influencer, who hasn't done a lot of acting, but he's gonna have to hit his marks, deliver the line, turn this thing, do these things.
And drop a truck.
We're going to drop a truck later, but the timings have to be spot on every single time. And he has to recognize, like, we're jokers. And it's like, and I'm going, I got a feeling he can pull this off. I'll have a plan B if he can't, but I'm going to move that camera, and I'm going to actually do a big move and do all this stuff and assume that he can pull this off. And he did, and then you have the variation of like, oh, can you, the agency, saying, can we grab this, that? But the move was very bold, and everyone's like, holy crap. Like, but I'm like, it has to be like, I don't want to just be sitting there doing like, it looks like a plate shot.
Right.
It needs to be moving. And a plate shot, everyone's seen that plate shot a million times. If the camera's moving just a bit, it's going to make a huge difference on this shot, and we need to make it. So,
whereas Will Arnett and Jason Bateman, probably you had the opposite. They're riffing, they're cracking each other up. Right, they're comfortable doing it.
Well, no, first of all, it wasn't Will Arnett. It was just a stunt, not just, but a stunt person. Will is a vicious rumor that somehow swirled around that it was Will Arnett in that spot.
Oh, that's not Will Arnett?
No.
It sounds like him.
I know. It was like, they go, well, it's like, it blew up all over the internet. It's like, oh, it was Will Arnett. It's like, no, in fact, WB and came back and said, we don't want a real Batman because we don't want the rumors.
Right.
This is the new Batman. So
even Lego Batman
cannot touch Batman. Like, we don't want that rumor.
Let me ask you a question, sir. And you can pass on any of these questions, right?
I pass. I'm going to pass on the first one, but you go to the second one.
Okay, I'll go to the second one. State Farm, High Dive, agency that's on fire. It's exploded in the last few years. You probably know all those guys from Super Bowl spots, Mark Gross, the whole team. But just personally, I think the spot would work without Jake from State Farm. He comes in at the end, he makes the comparison, and he spoon feeds us, don't you want Batman instead of Bateman, which I get the structure of the ad. But so that's the one I think you could pass on just politically. you could say, Jordan, you're an idiot. You need Jake from State Farm to explain the ad.
Well, I didn't understand until he did it. I just trust Jake from State Farm. Like I do,
Okay.
like, you know, I believe anything he says. Well, look, you know, it's funny you say that. And
Like a mini movie without him. And he comes in and you go,
right. Well, it's like, all right, but just assume that you come into these campaigns and it's like certain mandatories, right? Jake's got to be there. Like Jake, people freaking love Jake. I've never done a Jake spot, not my whole life. It was the first time I met Jake.
He's very buff now.
And when I told people I was working on State Farm, I go, yeah, I got Bateman. You got Jake? No, Bateman. No, Jake, but is Jake in it? Oh, yeah, Jake. Literally, he's got that kind of like thing out there, which is funny. When I saw the original board come in and everything, I looked at it. I'm like, well, Jake's in there, but how do you make it so you're not feeling Jake? Like it's not taking us out of it completely, right? Like that you want to be able
That's my question.
Yeah. And then it was like, oh, but he could make an interesting narrator, truthfully, if we incorporate him into it and sort of was there Cy Sperling? Well, not Cy Sperling, that's the wrong person. What do you call it? Twilight Zone. Sort of.
Rod Sterling. Rod
Sperling, right. Cy Sperling, I've worked with him too. He's dead now at this point. But he was in the Hair Club for Men guy. But Cy Sperling,
that would be hilarious.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And we did a Sports Center spot with him. But it's the idea that was, if we could sort of work him in, so it's sort of a surreal thing, that was the whole challenge. And that, you know, we knew that was sort of baked into the branding. And then how you make it so that it's not spoon feeding you, which we knew it was going to be to a degree, as long as it was cool and sort of got through it. But it didn't
it works wonderfully.
Yeah. But and I hadn't worked, you know, I worked with Gross, but, you know, Chad, I had not worked with this first time with Chad. And I really loved working with him. He was very, you know, you get back to the Crispin days. I was telling those guys, I was working with him. It was very Crispin-esque, like the whole, you know, the swagger those guys have, the caring. But the biggest thing is caring. Like, you know, getting back to our business, and if the people in our business are listening to this, which I assume a few people are.
That's the only people.
When you get down to what made CPB, or for those who don't know what that is, Crispin Porter Bogusky, or if you don't, you're really a newcomer, arguably the agency of the early 2000s and mid 2000s.
Certainly agency of the decade from 2000 to 2010. Is that the years you're talking about? You director of the decade or something similar.
Yeah. And they knew their brands. Like they knew those brands inside and out. You do like a Mini Cooper shoot, that'd be like, they could tell you what bonnets, how they're painted. Then the client used to say that, you know, the product better than I do, right? That is why their work was so successful, because Alex could sit there and sell anything. It was a genius, you know, at selling things and distilling things down to simple thoughts. And he obviously had Keller and all those other guys around him, creative guys, but they were able to care about the business, you know. And part of what's happened is because of, and I use this example of like, you know, mergers and acquisitions. So no one's like, creatives are working on businesses they don't even know anything about, you know, and they don't know anything about it. And but they've been outsourced basically from the UK office to work on this project that they know nothing about. And then this thing ain't gonna work. Like the client's not gonna have the confidence that this person knows and cares about their business. And then ultimately, when you make those decisions, you know, and I'll use the Jake thing as an example. Like, it would have been easy for me to go, well, dude, this would be so much cooler without Jake. But you have to be honest. Jake does represent something.
He's the brand, yeah.
Yeah. So you want to throw him out. You're like, okay, you throw him out. But I'm like, I think we can make it work with it. And maybe in the end for Super Bowl specifically, or, you know, like if we're not making an art film, then is this really, could Jake be, and make it cool and interesting? Can we make that branding work within it? You know, that was a challenge. Like, how do you make that?
I love it. I love it. To your point, I think it was, there was some championship, or maybe it was the draft, the WNBA draft. And young Caitlin goes off, and the first person to congratulate her, not her parents, Jake from State Farm, which is a whole nother podcast. But the fact that the brand was there, to me, was genius. But I had to ask from a filmmaking point of view, maybe you would have said something like, oh my God, it's its own piece. It's its own Batman mini short. And then Jake comes in, but you've explained it well.
Well, I mean, because he sets it up at the beginning, and we knew it. I like, honestly, I always, and I love challenges, right?
Uh-huh.
And we talk about let's talk about award shows. There used to be the fake award show stuff, which I always appreciated that stuff. I'm like, oh my God, that's so funny. It's fake. Yeah, but it's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, it's fake, but everybody's faking these ads, and they're not, then there's the other side of the spectrum, which is these networks voting for their own work, which is business oriented, and it's gross. But the Fallon McGilligan era of it, Minneapolis advertising, like it ran once for a barbershop and sweep every show. It was still inspiring, right, for us. Then the Dawn came along, Crispin, which was like anti sort of award show, but won awards, but they understood brand, right? And they just created really cool brand work. I thought, Buck and Chicken, or, The King, all that stuff. It was like amazing.
Subservient Chicken was groundbreaking for its time.
But it really tied back. It still is under truly came out of a brand, right? I mean, like, it was cool. And everything they did was sort of like that. And then, we move into this new era of work, which is like, I don't know. I see it as more like, some of it's checking boxes, like, oh, it hits a certain emotional thing, but where you see work that really, or is it just a network sort of like appeasing themselves, make sure they get bonuses are based on this and this is that and the other thing, especially they can. It kind of got I became more disillusioned. I'm like, well, we kind of have to take it back and just do our thing and not worry about, I'm not as worried about awards anymore because they don't mean as much, because they don't come with the same judges that are looking at the same criteria. They're looking at, how does this affect my network? And that irrefutable. I will argue that up and down, and I've been on both the winning side of that and the losing side of that. So I can say I've been on both sides with work. And that's a bummer, because in the end, I'm like, you're not promoting the best work necessarily, because you're just worried about your network and how it's going to affect your stock,
versus worrying about the work.
Right. Or the brand for even that. What's the best piece, like what's the piece that really isn't us just all in the back room slapping each other on the back going, you vote for mine, I'll vote for your kind of crap, or even I'll vote you better go into that judging, voting for our network or else. You're like, what? Like, when did that happen? Anyway, neither here nor there. It just means that whatever work we create, and I'll use the Batman thing because I don't know how it's going to do the award shows. They're not part of a network, right? Which is kind of cool. But I think it's good brand advertising. Like, the other day, I'm like, you know what? It really does what it's supposed to do. And, it's everything to me. That spot was like, it was a bummer, because of the circumstances with the Super Bowl. It is what it is, but I think they made the right move by not running it, on the game. But it really was everything that I loved about the business, and including that problem solving, even with Jake. Like, I'm like, you know what?
Well, it cements one of the biggest spokespeople of the last 15 years. I don't know how long Jake's been there, with one of the greatest IPs in modern history, the Batman.
Right. And then I'm allowing us to run as fast as we can, not sitting there going, don't make it creative. Don't make it dark. They didn't do any of that. They just said, run as fast as you can. Everybody, like, we were writing, we're doing everything. And that to me was Crispin. That was like, don't look over your shoulder, run. And, and I always say to people, like, when they tell you to, you're always looking over your shoulder at the video village, then you're going to run into a wall, basically. Right. So I definitely do much better when people say, just run. When you have people picking at you the whole time, you're in the insurance business for real then, and you're just covering your ass to make sure, because you're not going to take swings. You're just trying to get through the day. And I'm sure you've been there before, which is just, we've all been there, which is just miserable. That's when you hate what you do in that moment. Like,
oh, never.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a speed round. You're going to have to go in a second, aren't you?
Yeah. Go ahead. Shoot.
Speed round. How many, is there a magic number of alts Do you love alts? You'll do alt lines until the day is done?
I
Because you mentioned
working with a celebrity. If you're working with a celebrity, I do not walk in with tons of alts. You cannot do that. Like, you have to be respectful of. You run them through the celeb. I'm not going to do a crappy alt. They're not going to do a crappy alt, right? So no. But if you're talking about no celeb, whatever, there's just a fixed amount of time. I'm not going to do. If you think it's bad, you're not going to do a bad line. But it's not going to work. Some stuff you go like, I don't know that's going to work. You see it on paper, and I find that, oh God, it's funny. I mean, one of the great lessons in life, Larry David. I remember they wrote tons. I did the spot for him, like tons of funny shit for him. And he's like, I'm not going to do any of this thing. I'm going to do this. And I was like, this isn't funny. I mean, I saw what Larry's going to do. It's not funny on the page. And Larry said it was like tuna or something. It's like, oh my God, it's hysterical, and it's so much better. Of course, he's going to know his humor. Like, he knows his humor. So the variable that we're always dealing with is a talent that you have could take a line that sucks and make it funny in their own. Like, my job isn't to. So the answer is, like, you try to limit the alts, but
the correct number was 7.
Nah, 7 is too many, I think. But that's what I think.
Next speed round question: when's the last time Bryan Buckley did a treatment?
The last time I did a treatment, all the time. Like, it was funny. I believe I actually, weird thing I'm gonna say is, I actually like doing treatment.
Why is that?
You would know that Batman spot is a perfect example. Like, you have to, that needs to be completely thought out how you're going to do that for the money they had and the time, and everything needed to be completely figured out ahead of time. If you didn't do that, you'd be dead in the production. So with the bigger productions, I specifically planning, I'm so much about planning, including the agency measuring their expectations. This is what I want to do. I don't do treatments that aren't like, oh, here's the treatment to get the job. Here's the job I'm going to do if you hire me.
2 different things.
Okay. 2 different things. Yeah. I'm not doing it to win the job. I'm doing it to say, this is my vision on the job. Take it or leave it.
On treatments, you do it for the job that you're going to execute because you're probably offered the job.
Sometimes, but if when I'm offered it, I absolutely do a treatment, because I just don't want. It used to be that they say clients didn't look. I remember way back when, because I got in a huge treatment discussion with AICP and all this other stuff, and I was against treatments when they first came out. But then I started to learn, like, oh, you can, if you have the right team, you're putting together, pulling visuals and stuff, like, you're measuring or elevating expectations for budget, for everything. Like, this is what I want to do. If you want to do that, great. So even a single bid, you're going to do a treatment. It's the worst thing now to me is not doing, because everyone has a different film they're making when you show up, right? And then you got to start going, well, no, I was thinking this, and like, oh, we were thinking that, and it's fine to have those discussions, but I think at least you've put it out there and they've accepted and hired you based on your vision. Like, that's.
Yeah, in a Hitchcockian way, it's kind of where you're directing the film.
Right.
Right. Is there a recent spot you wish you directed?
I was looking at the Super Bowl spot the last couple of years. I'm like, wow, this is not very good. like, I don't know what you're like. I don't know if I could have made that one better either. This is terrible. But, it's like, I don't know, because you see the good. When you say meaning that you could do a better job of, or meaning
it just would have been fun. Not that you would have done it better, but you, like, oh my God, why didn't I have mini Darth Vader?
Right.
Yeah, you can pass on any
treatment on that one. I actually said it had to be a big Darth Vader, and I lost a job. I mean, that was wrong. Like, I don't know. I play that one back in my head a million times over. Why did I pitch the big Darth Vader? Why the little one? It's interesting. Like, I don't know. You throw me. That's a tough. I'm not saying that because I'm trying to be politically correct.
So you can pass on any speed round question.
All right, try another. That's a tough
okay.
One.
On the Hungry Man website, when you go to Bryan Buckley's page, you've got classics, sometimes going back decades.
Decades.
And And what does that say? That says this is the work. So I'm a young director and I'm listening to this podcast and I'm going, but I thought I could only put the new stuff that I did in the last year. But you're saying put the best of the best. Is that true?
Well, yeah. I think I've always been, and it's a common misstep to me that new is good, right? Let's be honest, like, great is hard to come by, and there's many factors in our business that allows great to happen, right? The mistake you make is like new is good. New is not necessarily good. New is new, but you might pop it on there for a nanosecond, but it doesn't hold up against the others. So when you get a spot that sticks, then you've done something special, and it also forces you to keep on trying to create something that's good enough to be part of that work. And that's a super big challenge. Like, it's always a challenge to go, is this me trying to appease myself, or is this actually at that level?
This holds up. Does this hold up? Yeah. Well, the Grey Poupon definitely, it all holds up. And in fact, I remember when that counterfeit Mini Cooper spot came out, speaking of the CPB years, that still holds up. I watched that last night. How does Bryan Buckley feel about imitators? When you see a spot and you go, oh, I did the first round of the campaign, now someone else is doing it. Maybe they had less money. Maybe you were working, or maybe someone just comes along and does your style.
Well, the worst is when someone says, I saw your spot. It's usually a family member. And they'll be like, hey, that was funny. I'm like, what? I didn't do that one. You're like, wait, that one's terrible. You really thought I did that one? Like, it is really funny when whether it's an existing campaign or someone think, oh, that's your voice, right? And someone, I can't tell you if they knocked your voice off or not. There are things like, Sports Center is a really good example. It's gone on and on and on for years. We did the first few years of it, and then it kept on going. Or, what happens here stays here the first year, and then after that, that went into 20 years of or 10 years of advertising. So there's always those things that I laugh about that. I actually just did the opposite, which is Gnome did the original Starbucks. I just did the Starbucks spot a couple of weeks ago, which was like, off of Eye of the Tiger, and he did.
Oh yeah. Roy. That's
Roy.
cool.
Right. So I just did that one. I was gonna call and say, oh, it was one of those things. I gotta call him just to, just because I kept on asking, why isn't Gnome doing this? Like, and because he did such a great job, and I don't know what the ins and outs are, but I think that is the state of the business in a weird way. But anyway, I was like, all right, well, you guys definitely don't want to know. I'm like, all right, I'll do this thing. But it was funny because I got to study his work, really study a spot that he did and go, what was working about that? Why? Like the science of that, but then yet creating something new, right? Not trying to do that, but pay homage to that. So that was interesting. But I think look, flattery is, I'm okay with people knocking stuff off. It's just always bums me out when it's somebody who really well that you did it. You might have done that original or a spot similar to it, and they think you did it. And you're like, wow, the quality of that spot. You really think, yes, right. I had an agency call me about a few months ago, or, creative director I work with a ton. And he texted me, dude, I thought that spot you did was hysterical. I'm like, it was like, oh my God, it was the thing with Will Ferrell for PayPal. And I was just like, I'm sorry, I just don't think it was very good. It was just bad. It was like not very good. And I'm like, wow, like that's what you thought. That's me. And I was like, I don't know what would make you think I would, like the choices that were made wouldn't be the choices I would make, but you've worked with me all these years. You wouldn't know I wouldn't make those choices. Then they were like, wow, and then you start questioning everything. Like, maybe I should just go do a musical. That's it.
Wow. And that's what you're doing.
Then that's what's driving me to do a musical. That was literally that moment. It's like, no, I'm joking. But it isn't. There are people who understand, and no, everyone means well, right? I mean, it's just the artistry of what we do. You're dealing with that as a director. Do people know the difference? And you could do the same spot over and over again, and people are going to argue about the casting. Let's say casting, like you do a spot, you cast it a certain way. And they hire you based on your way you cast that spot. And they go, you're amazing. We want that exact same type of person. You put them in front of them, but maybe the person's not exactly the same. So it's like, yeah, I don't see it. I'm like, dude, that's exactly what you're not going for that. Cause like that's the thing, right? So that gets back to the reel, which is if the reel has any weakness on it, that is casting you're not quite sure about, or,
Chuck that spot. Chuck it. Don't put it on.
Cause you know what? They're going to hire you because they like that casting. And now you've created your own problem because they go, that spot's so funny. It's like, well, it's not that funny. They're like, no, we love that guy. It's like, yeah, I don't love that guy so much. I didn't even want him. You're like, well, now that's who hired you. Their taste level is that spot. That's it. You've dug yourself in a hole. You might have won the job, but you won on a spot you don't even like. So you better to put the weird spot that nobody likes that you feel good about on your reel. That's it. That's because in the end you get hired for that reason.
Oh, that's sage advice. Christopher Walken, was he happy that you did that spot so he could, because so many people now do the imitation. Did he love that idea?
He loved it. We had a call with him. Me and Wes did a funny call with him to kind of get him over the finish line on that. And that was a case of like, the celebrity wants to talk to you on the phone if he's going to do the spot or not. And it was Chris, and we jumped on the phone and he's like, I don't know if this is going to be funny. Like, it's going to be great. And his whole thing was like, how is it going to turn the corner? And it was a great conversation. And we kind of convinced him into, like, look, how we handle and how it sort of the spot evolves. So he's not one note and then his character sort of evolves. And, so he loved it. And when we were, but then going to great lengths to find people who could do it, he would crack up every time because he didn't know we wouldn't have the person speak and do the walking until
you're filming.
Right. So
that's funny.
Try to keep a straight face. And then some of them people we cast intentionally to be bad walking people. Right. But then he was, and I'm going to tell you something. I can't tell you how much I loved Christopher Walken, like amazing. And so and it's a long story, but I had worked with him once before. It was an ill-fated spot for New York City during 9/11. But he came in on this thing and he'd show up every day by himself, no handler, no agent, no anybody, just come in and cared so much. It was wonderful. Like just amazing few days with him. And Hoyte was DP on that, which, Hoyte, fan of Academy Award winner. So we had a great team on that. It was a good one. Yeah.
Did you find yourself talking in a Walken-esque accent to him?
No. Like that mistake.
It's not on purpose.
No, but I've actually seen it with creatives doing client impersonations and some putting it in front of the client of them. And you're like, dude, what did you just do? You just not like the client in front of the client. And like, you learn, you do not, as a director, one of the things is I do not ever talk like the talent ever. Like I just won't do it because I feel like, I've been there. I've had some big talent say that they've worked with commercial directors that have actually parodied them or done like them, and they don't work with them. Literally, they won't work with them again. Like, so I'm super careful about that because they might, maybe Walken, tell me how, I don't think Walken does, but some of the talent will go, tell me how you want me to say it.
Right. Don't mimic me to me.
But they might say, do me to me. And if you really say it, then say it like this. But I won't do it because you're like, then, my whole theory is like, why am I hiring you if I'm doing me? Like, then you just end up with a bunch of me's in the spot. And your reel is going to get stale real fast if it's just versions of you.
What would you say is the cartilage that holds all of your work together? And the answer could be none, Jordan. It's variety that I love.
Money.
Money's a great answer.
Money holds it together, Jordan. Let's be honest. It started the conversation with money and ends with money. No, a degree of honesty is my goal. Like that there's honesty within the voice of the work that's reflective of culture and therefore would be reflective of brand. If it's brutally, there's something honest about it, not slick. That to me is always like that layer of honesty that if you can achieve that,
am I interpreting it? Go
ahead.
ahead. I'm sorry.
It's hard to sort of, in performance, there's something, it's slick and feels too familiar, then it's a misfire. It needs imperfection of honesty. I don't know. That's the best way I look at it. Yeah.
Well, even in the Hyundai Smart Pack, as absurd as it is, they're playing the reality of the situation. I call that honesty. Like even Rachel Dreck, who I love, and at the end, he's got a Smart Pack.
Right.
She's yelling it with conviction. Am I off on this? But to me, it's an honest performance because they're living the reality of that situation.
Okay, let's look at that shoot. One day shoot. The three of them never went back to their trailer once, which is like over like a half mile away. They all stood and talked to each other the whole time. Meanwhile, I have two of the Wahlberg brothers driving the cars, like in the car, like completely, like not obviously Mark, the other like lesser known Wahlberg brothers who were complete throwaway, but created like this reality that was hysterical, like in between shots, the theatrics, like the environment, even Poppy, even the folks that were the reaction folks that, you know, the guy across the street, whatever, all those people were true Bostonians. It just sort of brought into like, and I'm obviously from there, but that it was just fun, even though it was raining and cold and everything. It was on the, you know, there, which is super key. Like originally, I think it was scripted to be, you know, in LA. And Krasinski and I had worked together before. There's a case of a guy who calls me up when he has spots, you know, like John. So he's like, and John's all about that. There's a guy who taught me a lot, you know, like just working with him because he's very interesting. Like he once called me up with this campaign for Budweiser. So I want you to, you know, I'm just a writer. I'm not going to be in it. I'm producing. I wrote it. And then we were like, just watching how he wanted to cast and stuff was very interesting. He's, you know, there's a reason why he's as successful as he is. Like he's just really, really smart. Anyway, so I just knew like that environment, you create a fun, playful environment, then the gloves are off, you know, and that came out of that spot, you know, like that. And so the honesty was, we created a very honest set that you were free to make mistakes and be stupid and what have you, and just have fun for a couple hours, you know.
I love it. It's one of my favorites.
Well,
two more questions. On the PSA for gun control, the lost class. I've read a lot. I've seen the case studies. It's very emotional and moving. You had the two pro NRA pundits. You dupe them into giving a speech. I'm imagining you tell them it's a dress rehearsal, a camera rehearsal, and all of the chairs representing and we just had, as we record this, there was a school shooting just days ago.
yeah.
So it goes on. Do you tell them after the fact what it was? And what was that like? And were you involved in that?
Well, I was involved, like, you know, obviously, yeah, everything from start to finish.
No, I mean in the like, hey, dude.
No, the post thing. No, involved there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had brought in a team that was part of the improv team. Part of it was forming the fake school, you know, James Madison Academy. That so they were like faculty, the head of the faculty members. One was the president, one was head of admissions, you know, whatever. That was the other character. They were in contact with the NRA folks. And what happened is that we canceled the graduation because it was a rehearsal day and the graduation was the next day. And we didn't say why. We said the reason being was there was a security issue that it definitely implied that there was a gun threat, ironically. So that both parties were like, oh, God, this is terrible. These, like ironically. So when we canceled, they're like, okay, fine. They got their money. Keen himself and was very vested in it, but we were on burner phones and those phones were turned off and there was no real follow-up thereafter.
Right.
They didn't know about it until after it hit. That we didn't call them and go, oh, you guys got punked. The punk was, it hit.
It's out in the open.
Yeah.
It made an impact.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. And again, it goes back to what we talked about a little while ago. It seems that, I don't know if you put money into that or what, but you make anything you want, and your passion projects are fueled by this wonderful career. And I think it's a good model for people to aspire to do.
Well, thank you. I think it's sort of essential, and that's like, you got to give your talent back, and use it in different ways, and also expands you, right? Like, in many ways, right? Like there were so many things that came out of that, like in the relationship with the folks that were the improvs people that, is an ongoing relationship. Excuse me, we've done other projects with them. It's just like, so you grow your community too. But then also, yeah, you getting that stuff that's really important to you, use that money, if you're doing some other spot, use that money and just, you can feel the path. It's different, and, and I remember even within the company, like, cause we got into doing more heavy sort of let's say PSAE stuff last, maybe 6-7 years ago, that was off brand for Hungry Man. Like, I'm like, no, it's not off brand. Like, I remember a whole conversation. It's like, well, you're a funny guy. I'm like, well, look, first of all,
Comedy shop. Yeah. What's a comedy shop doing with all this heavy stuff?
Gun stuff. It's like, whoa, and you're like, well, take it or leave it. This is who we are, like, internally or externally. I don't care. Like, because I think and by the way, in comedy is absolutely an efficient or effective way in which to get at, we know that, at really pressing issues. So, so it's just, it's what makes it interesting are those projects, to me, on top of the other stuff. It's what makes you a fully formed filmmaker.
Last question. And before I do, I just want to thank you so much for giving me the time and your insights and sharing these stories. I find it fascinating. Like I said, I'm a huge fan. Your name has come up. We've been doing this show 14 years. 2013 in the fall is when we started. And your name comes up all the time as, the benchmark, the guiding light. So this means a lot to me that you've given me so much time.
Thanks.
And I don't know if you know it, the show's called Respect the Process. And everyone answers this question so we can end it. What does that mean to you, respect the process?
Well, again, money. you got to get money. It's about money, man.
Well, my daddy told me it's never about the money. It's about how much.
It's right. He's about how much money. I think the process, respect the process. I think the creative process is, it's hard to respect it's a challenge only you can respect the process of yourself. I think people, whether they decide to respect it is through their point of view, and they have their own process. Everybody does, right? And how they arrive at what they arrive at. If you end up with a collaborative group of open-minded people that are only interested in respecting the process or respecting the filmmaker or the art director or the writer, and these people, with putting aside all the agendas that, generally speaking, in ego, because ego takes success. You can't get there without it, but it can stop everything in the heartbeat, right? And those egos are abound in our business. That if you can respect the process, you'll end up in the best possible place. And if you don't, then you'll end up in a lesser place. It's pretty much.
That's a great answer. It takes it takes a healthy ego to walk in a room and say, we could all direct this commercial, but I'm the one that's going to today. My views are narrow but correct. And it takes humility to lead the team and create an environment. Like when you were telling the story about Smart Park, the fish stinks from the head down. That's Bryan Buckley setting the tone, right? The actors may have all gotten along, but you set a vibe I'm surmising from your story that it's collaborative. Everybody feels valued. The crew feels like they're there for a reason, not just the money. So that balance of humility and ego is important. Any advice to young directors starting out? It could be don't.
Well, you know what's interesting? Just don't make excuses. I think the biggest thing I hear is like, right now there's the create your own reality. You have the ability, the tools, it's there. I do think it's really, really important the circles you travel in, meaning the crew or actors, the friends you make that can create better work. Because it's a singular vision kind of, but not really, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a team. And that team is, you have to look at it that way. So, but I only say this, like I did something a few weeks ago that went from zero, no following, nothing, to Rachel Maddow in 4 days without anyone knowing I did it, like at all, like huge. And like her opening story.
Oh, wow.
And that, to this day, no one knows I did it.
Can you tell us?
No, I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't. But what's important, what was really exciting for me was like, shit, no one even knew I did this. Like, this has nothing to do with me. Like, I didn't push it out. I didn't have any PR. I didn't do anything except create the thing. And that proved to me that anyone literally can do this. I did it on an iPhone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. There was no fancy shit. I mean, it was iPhone. There was some fancy shit involved, but truthfully, it was an iPhone, right? So it just told me like, oh, shit, yeah, a good idea, and go do it. It just and you can achieve that does exist. Don't and it's still there. The opportunities are very much there. And as a filmmaker right now, it is right in front of us. Like, we need to create relevant, interesting work, but this very tumultuous climate that we're in right now creates the best kind of work, I think.
There's never been a better time to be a filmmaker. The tool is in your pocket, and the things that need to be said are right slapping us in the face every day.
It's every day. Just get up and do it. Don't sit there and go, oh, I wish, or, they didn't hire me, or you know what? Get your friends together, figure it out, get it done. Just do something interesting and then push it out. It can happen. And if I wanted to monetize what I did, it would have been an overnight thing, which I'm like, wow, this is nuts. But it made me, it's nice when like, oh, okay, this, still you can create this stuff out there. And it's not because the days of like, oh, I'm gonna go make a short film and it's gonna go into a festival and
develop the feature
element and feature, dude, those days are gone. Like, that realistically is just fucking nightmare, just because of the business, right? And you're not even getting in those theaters. You're not even going to get those screenings. I mean, realistically. So go create something, then push it on the net. Go get something that, create something that you can do it. Like, it's possible, and that works within the commercial space. And it could, listen, it could work as a feature, but just don't just work on that, whatever that thing is that's speaking to you. That's where my head's at. Yeah.
I'm turning my camera on just so you can see me and say goodbye. Thank you again for doing this. Everyone, I'll post links. I'd love to post links to the short films as well as the spots.
Oh, great.
Continued success. Just, it means the world to me that you did this.
Oh, thank you, George. Thank you for having me. I'm glad you're out there pushing out and trying to get, keeping the enthusiasm, find the young filmmakers. It's so critical, right now, super critical, more than ever. So survive your redwoods well.
If you're open one day, here's my pitch. Like stock car racing, and you're the only guy that can make this happen. I'd love to be involved. We take one script from one client and we shoot it 3 different ways with 3 different directors. Give me your L.J. Johnson from Hungry Man. I'll give you a director from my company. And the client gets 3 different spots. I don't know if this will be in the podcast. Maybe we already said goodbye, but I've been pitching the people this. Rob Riley, I pitched this 2 years ago, or like 10, 15 years ago. I've been trying to find the client that would do the same spot 3 different ways. Same budget, same script, 3 different directors. Cast it their own way, DPs. It's a pretty good idea.
I like the idea. If you can get them to pay for one of them.
Right. Well, that's the problem. It should have sold in a different era of budgets.
Or you could have, the co-directors, which, I know you worked with Kuntz at one point, but, when you're directing co-directing, you do actually get 2 different, a lot of times it's, this guy does that take, that guy does that take.
Oh, really? That's how they do that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Kuntz, I used to direct with Frank, that was the way it was. Like, get your take.
That's funny. Well, maybe that's a way to do it. Start with a team. I have a directing team. I'll have them do it, and we'll do 2 cuts.
Well, the thing is, though, like it is, to your point, it's singular vision, right? So, like, if you pick something simple, it's funny. We're doing the Dead Ad Society. That was Caleb's idea, my partner's idea, and they do like a read, like a poetic, like table read of the spots, and there's supposed to make it, and there's a dead ad that died. It's sort of a funny idea. Maybe it falls under that, guys, too. It might be something, I don't know. But I'm it'd be funny. It's a funny idea, and you'll really see the difference in stuff, right?
Yeah. Okay, go put your kids to bed. Enjoy London, and congrats again. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jordan. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Commercial Directing Film School's mission is to help filmmakers direct commercials professionally. With online courses and in-person boot camps, we demystify the process to get you to the next level, all taught by your accessible mentor, filmmaker Jordan Brady.
True Gentleman Industries. We make commercials.